The coastal road was utterly still, as if the world itself held its breath. Salt hung in the twilight air like forgotten tears, and Elias Thorne stood alone beside his car, a machine of polished midnight and whispered dreams, its engine cold for now, but within it a heartbeat waited, wild and restless. Tonight he would race, not for glory, but for something far more fragile, a memory lost years ago on this very curve of sea-sprayed asphalt. Before we begin, dear listener, take a soft moment to like this story. If it soothes you, gently subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the quiet, and in the comments, whisper to us where you're listening from tonight. A city, a valley, a seaside town like ours. We cherish knowing you're here. Now, let your eyes grow heavy as the velvet dusk settling over the shore. Close them if you wish. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Fill your lungs with imagined salt and pine. Hold it like a secret for 3 heartbeats. Then release it through parted lips, letting go of the day's weight, its hurry, its worry, its sharp edges. Feel them dissolve like sea foam on wet sand. Bring your attention to your feet. Notice their warmth or coolness. Imagine them bare on smooth stones, cool and grounding. Let that calm rise like tide water up your ankles, your calves, softening muscles like warm oil, easing ancient gears. Feel it flow into your knees, your thighs, a gentle wave of release. Now, your hands, unclench them, if only in your mind. Rest them, palms up, on imaginary linen, light as dandelion seeds. Feel the whisper of a coastal breeze brushing your fingertips, cool and kind. Let that lightness travel up your arms to your shoulders, melting tension like wax under a low flame. Focus now on your face, the set of your jaw, the tiny muscles around your eyes. Smooth them like worn sea glass. Let your forehead be serene, as a windless bay, your scalp loose, floating, one more breath, deep and slow, in, filling every quiet corner, out, carrying away the last fragments of wakefulness. You are drifting, safe and anchored, ready for the story to begin. Beneath a sky turning lavender to deepest plum, Elias Thorne ran a hand along the car's flank, cold metal warmed by his touch. Aurora, he murmured, her name, a breath lost in the sigh of distant waves. She was more than steel and rubber. She remembered every curve of this forsaken track, every skid, every victory, every loss, especially that loss. 10 years to the hour when his brother, Silas, vanished into the salt mist. On the devil's elbow, the final bend. No wreckage, no farewell, just silence and the crushing weight of absence. The twilight run was no ordinary race, held only once a decade, when the veil between day and night grew thin. Legends whispered that lost things could be glimpsed in the headlights' glow. Lost loves, lost chances, lost souls. Elias hadn't believed. Not then. Grief had made him hard and hollow, an empty shell, roaring down highways, trying to outrun the ghost in his rearview mirror. But time and the sea, softened stone, a longing deeper than grief, had drawn him back, not to win, but to seek, to ask the unanswerable question haunting his dreams. Where did you go, Silas? The cliffs rose like sentinels to his left, sheer and charcoal dark to his right. The ocean, endless and breathing slow, its surface a shifting tapestry of mercury and bruised violet. Gulls cried, lonely, overhead, their voices echoing in the vastness. Other drivers arrived, engines grumbling, a low thunder in the gathering gloom. Their headlights cut nervous swaths through the dusk. Elias ignored them. His world was the scent of hot oil and old leather, the feel of the steering wheel, worn smooth under his palms, a familiar anchor. He leaned, his forehead against Aurora's cool roof, listening to the quiet hum of his own blood. "Be with me tonight," he asked. Not the car, not the sky, but the memory that flickered like a dying star. A figure approached, tall, wrapped in a coat, the color of fog. Marlowe, the race master, his face a landscape of deep crevices and watchful eyes. He carried no clipboard, no flags, only a lantern casting long, dancing shadows. "Thorn," he rasped, his voice like stones tumbling in surf. "You came back." It wasn't a question. Elias straightened, nodded once. The weight of Marlowe's gaze felt ancient, knowing the run isn't about speed. "Tonight," Marlowe said, softly, his eyes fixed on the darkening horizon. "It's about seeing the twilight plays tricks, shows truths we bury in the daylight." He raised the lantern. Its light caught the mist, beginning to curl like phantom fingers from the ocean's surface. They say the elbow whispers back tonight to those who listen with more than ears. A low chime sounded, ethereal, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. The starting signal, no roar of engines yet, just a collective intake of breath. Drivers settling into cockpits, the ritual of gloves, goggles, focus. Elias slid into Aurora's embrace, the bucket seat molding around him like coming home to a room haunted by joy. He keyed the ignition. Aurora awoke, not with a shout, but a deep, resonant purr, a living thing stretching beneath him. Vibrations traveled up his spine, steadying, centering. Marlowe stood before the cars. He raised the lantern high, its flame a solitary star in the purple dusk. "Remember," his voice carried, clear and low, over the idling engines. "The track is a river of time tonight. Flow with it. Don't fight. He paused. The mist thickened, swirling around wheels. And watch the mirrors, not just for rivals. The lantern swung down, engines surged, a symphony of contained power. Aurora's purr deepened to a hungry growl. Elias's hands were steady, his breath even. The cliff face, the churning sea, the snaking ribbon of asphalt ahead, blurred into a tunnel of focus. He eased off the clutch. Aurora leapt forward, not violently, but with the grace of a panther springing into the hunt. Wind rushed around the windshield, cool, damp, smelling of secrets. The headlights pierced the gloom, turning mist into swirling gold. Cliffs whipped past, dark smudges against the deepening blue. The ocean kept pace, a vast, shifting shadow. His rhythm found itself. Gear changes, smooth as silk. Tires singing a low, sure song on the wet road. He wasn't driving, he was flowing, merging with the machine. The night, the memory, approaching the devil's elbow, the infamous bend, a hairpin turn, carved into the cliff's cruel jaw. Guardrails, long rusted, offered no comfort. Beyond them, only darkness and the distant, sickening roar of waves on unseen rocks. This was the place where Silas had not stopped, had not crashed, had simply ceased to be. Elias downshifted. Aurora's engine blipped, a throaty sound. He scanned the road. Mist curled thicker here, coiling like smoke around the headlights. Its softened edges, muffled sound, leaving only the beat of his heart, the hum of the engine, the whisper of tires. He leaned into the turn, smooth, precise, muscle memory honed over 1,000 fearful rehearsals. The cliff wall loomed inches away, a dark mass streaked with moisture. He focused ahead on the exit of the bend, on the road unfurling into the night. Then, instinct made him glance up, just a flicker, to the rearview mirror, not for rivals gaining ground, but because Marlowe's words echoed in his bones. Watch the mirrors. The glass reflected the road behind, the swirling mist, the dark asphalt, the empty stretch he'd just traveled. But for a fraction of a heartbeat, it showed something else, something impossible. Not the empty road, but a figure standing right where the bend swallowed the light. Tall, familiar, wearing a racing jacket. Elias knew too well. Silas's jacket. The figure wasn't looking at the car, wasn't looking at the road. Its face turned towards Elias. In the mirror's fleeting glimpse, it seemed to be smiling, a sad, gentle smile. And then a hand raised, not in warning, but in recognition, a silent salute. From the mist, Elias's breath hitched, a cold shock speared through his focus. His foot jerked on the accelerator. Aurora lurched. Tires screamed, a sharp protest on the damp asphalt. The car fishtailed, threatening to break free, to spin towards the crumbling edge and the hungry darkness below. He fought the wheel, muscles straining, eyes wide, not on the road ahead, but locked desperately on the rearview mirror. The figure was gone, vanished like smoke in a sudden gust. Only the empty bend, swirling mist, and the terrifying void beyond the guardrail remained. But the echo of that smile lingered, a ghost in his mind's eye. And the car, Aurora, his steadfast companion, hung suspended on the knife edge of the turn, tires scrabbling for purchase on the wet, treacherous road. The ocean's roar below sounded like a hungry, waiting thing. The scream of tortured rubber faded into the ocean's deep sigh. Silence, heavy and fragile, Settled inside Aurora's cockpit, Elias's knuckles white on the wheel, his breath ragged, fogging the cool windshield in frantic bursts. Below, the hungry void seemed to pull. A dark maw opened by memory and mist. He fought not just the car, but the vision, that impossible, heart-stopping glimpse. Silas, not a ghost of grief, but solid, present, sadly smiling. In the rear view, a place for the past, chasing you, not beckoning from the precipice of memory. Muscle and instinct took over. Years of feeling asphalt through his bones. A subtle countersteer, gentle as coaxing a spooked horse, feathering the accelerator just so. Aurora, the faithful beast, responded. Her tires found purchase on the wet grit. The violent sway subsided into a controlled drift. She slid gracefully around the elbows, cruel apex, missing the corroded guardrail by a whisper of painted steel. The road straightened ahead, leaving the cliff's edge behind, leaving him behind. Elias dared another glance into the mirror. Only darkness, swirling fog, and the retreating, menacing curve. Empty, utterly, devastatingly empty. Had it been a trick? A cruel conjuration of fatigue and twilight? The ocean's roar, now muffled, seemed to mock him. Yet the echo remained, not just the image, but the feeling, a warmth in that spectral smile, a recognition that pierced the cold dread. It hadn't felt like horror. It felt like hello. Aurora surged forward. Elias, still trembling, guided her. The rhythm was broken, his focus shattered. The other racers were phantoms in the mist, distant headlights flickering like will-o'-the-wisps, their engines a dull throb against the vast oceanic silence. He wasn't racing them. He was chasing a shadow, a memory made manifest in twilight. The coastal road unfurled, a charcoal ribbon stitched between obsidian cliffs and the Mercury Sea. The mist thickened, coiling around Aurora like living tendrils. It softened the harsh lines of the world, blurred edges, muffled sound, leaving only the intimate hum of the engine, the sigh of tires on damp asphalt, the frantic drum of his own heart. He drove, not with speed, but with a searching slowness, eyes scanning not just the road, but the margins, the dark crevices where cliff met sky, the shifting patterns in the fog, the rearview mirror, now an object of fearful, hopeful scrutiny, every shadow a potential silhouette, every shift in the mist a possible figure. Marlowe's words returned, haunting as the sea wind. The track is a river of time. Tonight, flow with it, don't fight, and watch the mirrors, not just for rivals. The old man knew, he knew. What secrets did this forgotten road hold? Ahead, a small stone bridge arched over a churning inlet. Salt spray glittered in Aurora's headlights like scattered diamonds. As Elias approached, the sound changed. The ocean's roar deepened, resonating through the car's frame. But beneath it, threaded like silver through the dark wool of sound, came music, faint, ethereal, a melody played on some distant, impossibly sweet instrument, a tune he hadn't heard in 10 years, the one Silas always hummed before a race. A nervous habit turned comforting ritual, calms the machine, and the man, he'd say with that lopsided grin. Elias's breath caught. He slowed almost to a crawl. The music seemed to emanate from the bridge itself or the dark water beneath it. It wrapped around Aurora, filling the cockpit with a poignant aching familiarity. He could almost smell Silas's old leather jacket and the cheap peppermint gum he chewed constantly. He stopped the car right in the middle of the narrow bridge, engine idling, a low, patient rumble, headlights cutting twin tunnels through the fog over the restless water. He listened, straining. The melody swelled, clearer now, a simple, sad, beautiful sequence of notes, undeniably real, undeniably his. Tentatively, Elias rolled down the window. Cold, wet air rushed in, carrying the salt, the seaweed, and the music. Louder, closer. It seemed to come from the passenger seat, from the empty space beside him, where Silas always sat, where he joked and strategized and been. He turned slowly, his heart a trapped bird in his ribs, expecting nothing, expecting everything. The seat was empty, just worn leather and shadow, but the music persisted, filling the void, a tangible, haunting presence. He reached out, a trembling hand, towards the empty space, fingers brushing only cool air. Yet the melody seemed to vibrate against his skin, a gentle thrum resonating with the engine's deep purr, a wave bigger than the rest crashed against the bridge pilings. Spray, like cold fingers, reached through the open window, sprinkling his face. The shock of it broke the spell. The music faded like a radio tuning out into static. Then silence, leaving only the ocean, the idling engine, and the crushing loneliness of the empty seat. Elias slumped back, a sob, tight and dry, caught in his throat. Not grief this time, not anger, but a profound, aching confusion. What was this place? What rules did the twilight play by? Was it showing him truths or tearing old wounds? Wider, he looked at the rearview mirror. Still, only fog and retreating darkness. No figure, no smile, just the road he'd traveled, haunted by absence, a sound behind him, not music, not waves, the distinct, growling approach of another racer. Headlights flared in his mirrors, blinding in the fog, angry, impatient. A horn blared, a harsh, jarring sound, shattering the fragile, sacred silence of the bridge. Reality, the competitive, ruthless, daylight reality, crashed back. He was stopped on the track, blocking the way. The spell was broken, the twilight's gift withdrawn. Elias took a shuddering breath, wiped the salt spray from his face. Or were they tears? He didn't know. He engaged gear, eased Aurora forward, off the bridge, back onto the dark ribbon of road. The pursuing car roared past, a flash of scarlet paint and aggression, gone into the fog, leaving Elias alone again with the sea, the mist, and the echo of a melody that lingered in the leather, the steel, the very air he breathed. He drove slower now, not searching the margins anymore, listening to the quiet within the noise, to the spaces between the engine's pulse and the waves, to the memory of the music. Had it been for him a message, a farewell revisited, or simply the twilight playing its tricks? The road began to climb, leaving the immediate coast, winding upwards into hills shrouded in deeper, colder fog. Pine trees loomed like sentinels, their dark shapes barely visible, their scent sharp, ancient, mixing with the salt. A different, older silence descended. The ocean's voice faded to a murmur. Ahead, the scarlet taillights of the car that passed him, flickered, then vanished. Around a bend, Elias followed. The climb steepened. Aurora's engine worked harder. A steady, soothing rhythm in the gloom. He rounded the bend, expecting to see the red lights ahead, but the road was empty, just fog and trees and the pale, ghostly glow of his own headlights. The other car was gone, vanished as completely as Silas. A decade ago, Elias slowed to a stop, engine idling. He peered ahead. Nothing. He checked the mirrors. Only the road he just climbed. Empty. Silent. The scarlet racer had simply disappeared. No skid marks. No turnoffs. Just gone. A new, deeper chill settled over him. Not the cold of the mountain air, but the cold of realization. This race wasn't just about finding Silas. It was about surviving the twilight run itself, a place where the past wasn't past, where the road could swallow you whole, leaving no trace, just an empty stretch of whispering asphalt and the echo of an engine that suddenly stopped. He took a breath, steeled himself, and pressed the accelerator. Aurora moved forward into the swallowing fog, towards the place where the red car had vanished, into the unknown curve where the pines leaned closer, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the headlights in the silent, waiting dark. The fog swallowed Elias whole. Pine needles brushed Aurora's roof, a soft, persistent, shushing sound, like the forest was trying to calm him or silence him. The scarlet taillights were gone, vanished as utterly as if they'd never burned red in the night. No screech of brakes, no crunch of undergrowth, just absence, a hole punched in the fabric of the twilight road. Elias let Aurora coast to a stop, engine idling, a low, comforting thrum in the sudden, profound silence. He strained his ears beyond the engine, beyond the whisper of pine high above, only the deep, impenetrable quiet. The ocean was a memory far below. Here, in the high pines, the air was colder, sharper, scented with resin and damp earth, and something older, like stone and forgotten years. He stepped out of the car, leaving the door ajar. The headlights, cut too frail, wavering cones into the fog, illuminating the dark trunks that crowded the narrow road, their bark deeply furrowed like the faces of old men who had seen too much. Mist curled around his ankles, cold as mountain streams. He walked forward, slowly, boots crunching softly on the gravel at the road's edge, to the spot where the scarlet car had disappeared. The asphalt showed nothing, no skid marks, no oil slick, no sign of violent departure. It was as if the road had simply opened and closed again. He knelt, running his fingers over the cold, damp surface, smooth, unblemished. His breath plumed in the frigid air. Where? The question echoed soundlessly in the vault of his mind. Not just about the scarlet car, but about Silas, about this entire uncanny night. Then he saw it, not on the road, but beside it, half hidden by feathery ferns and fallen needles, a glint of chrome caught in the edge of Aurora's headlight beam. He pushed the ferns aside, revealing a side mirror, detached, its chrome casing scratched but not shattered, the glass intact, reflecting the distorted, ghostly image of the fog and the pines and his own strained face. It belonged to the scarlet car, a piece ripped cleanly away. But how? There was no impact point, no debris, just this single orphaned mirror. He picked it up, cold metal in his palm, heavier than expected. As he lifted it, a single drop of thick amber liquid fell from its base, landing on the dark earth. Not oil, not water. It looked like pine sap, golden and viscous. It gleamed in the headlights like a tear, a shiver, unrelated to the cold, traced his spine. He turned the mirror in his hands. Its reflection wavered in the mist. For a moment, it didn't show the road behind. It showed darkness, a deep, velvety darkness, pierced by 2 points of faint, distant, golden light, like eyes watching from an impossible depth. Then it shifted back to the fog, the pines, the empty road. He looked up, startled. Had he imagined it? The twilight played such tricks, but the sap on his fingers was real, sticky and smelling sharply of the forest. A sound, faint, not an engine, not wind, a low, rhythmic thumping coming from the trees to his right. Deep within the shrouded woods, it sounded like a heartbeat, slow, steady, immense, the heartbeat of the mountain itself, or something buried within it. Marlowe's words, whispered in his memory, flow with it. Don't fight. This sound, it pulled, not with menace, but with a strange, gravitational sadness, an invitation to listen, to step off the known path. He glanced back at Aurora, her headlights, steady beacons. In the gloom, safety, familiarity. Then, towards the woods, the impenetrable, whispering, dark. The thumping pulsed like a drum, calling to something ancient in his blood. He placed the scarlet mirror carefully on Aurora's passenger seat, a relic of the vanished. Then he walked away from the asphalt onto the soft, spongy forest floor. Needles muffled his steps. Ferns brushed his knees. The fog closed around him like cool silk. Aurora's lights dimmed, then vanished behind the trees, leaving him in a world of gray and green and deepening shadow. The thumping grew louder, resonating in his chest, guiding him. He moved through towering pines, their trunks like pillars in a cathedral of mist. The air grew colder, damp, heavy with the scent of loam and decay, and that sharp, clean pine. The ground sloped gently downwards. He pushed through a final thicket of young saplings and stopped. Before him lay a clearing, circular, open to the fog-shrouded sky. At its center stood an ancient pine, vast beyond the others. Its trunk, thicker than Aurora was long, deeply furrowed bark like dragon scales. Its highest branches lost in the swirling gray. This was the source of the thumping, not from within, but from around it. The earth at the base of the great tree was disturbed, freshly turned and scattered across the dark soil like strange, mournful offerings. Lay car parts, a bent scarlet fender, a cracked headlight lens, a twisted section of chrome bumper, the remains of the vanished racer, not wrecked, but seemingly discarded, as if the car had been dismantled by careful, unseen hands, buried or offered to the ancient tree. The thumping was clearer now. It came from the roots or from beneath them, a deep, subterranean pulse It vibrated through the soles of his boots, filling the clearing with its slow, solemn rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. Elias approached, slowly, reverently. The air hummed with latent energy. The scent of pine sap was overpowering here, sweet and resinous. Golden droplets glistened like tears on the bark near the disturbed earth. He knelt by the scattered parts. His hand hovered over the scarlet metal, cold, lifeless. Then his gaze fell on something else, half buried in the dark soil near the giant root. Not metal, leather, dark, worn, familiar. He brushed the dirt away, revealing a small, bound journal. Its cover stained by earth and time and something dark like oil or dried sap. He knew this journal, had seen it 1,000 times in Silas's hands, in the pit lane, propped open on the dashboard as he scribbled last-minute calculations before that last race. Elias's heart stuttered. He lifted it carefully, as if handling a sleeping bird. The leather was stiff, cold. He wiped more dirt from the cover, revealing scratched initials: St. Silas Thorne. A wave of dizziness washed over him. How could it be here? Buried or placed at the foot of this impossible tree, amid the wreckage of a car that vanished minutes ago? 10 years and miles separated this place from the devil's elbow. The subterranean thumping seemed to grow louder, more insistent. Thump, thump, thump. It vibrated in the journal in his hands. He opened it. The pages were brittle, yellowed, some stuck together by time or by that same amber sap. He carefully peeled the first pages apart. The handwriting was Silas's, swift, confident, a little messy. Notes on engine tuning, gear ratios, track conditions, sketches of suspension parts, then entries, growing, more personal. Elias pushing too hard in practice. Fear makes him reckless. Need to talk. Dreamt of the pines again. That sound like a heartbeat under the mountain. Marlowe says the old trees remember the racers. Elias turned. Another page. Stiff. Resistant. He saw the date. The day before the last race. The final entry. Not about cars. Not about racing. The words were hurried. Almost panicked. Saw it again. In the rear view. Clear this time. Not a trick. Not fog. Eyes in the dark. Golden. Watching. From inside the mirror. It knows I see it. Marlowe warned the twilight demands a toll. Not just speed. Something else. Something remembered. If you find this, Elias, don't just look for me on the road. Look in the glass. Look where the heartwood echoes. I think I have to pay. The entry ended abruptly. A blot of dark ink, or perhaps sap. Elias stared. The words swam before his eyes. Eyes in the dark. Golden, like the lights in the scarlet mirrors. Fleeting vision. The twilight demands a toll. Look where the heartwood echoes. This place. This tree. This thumping heartbeat of the earth. A branch snapped behind him. Sharp in the muffled clearing. Elias froze. Journal clutched tight in his hand. He didn't turn. Not yet. The thumping pulsed against his skin. Thump, thump. Slowly, he looked up. Not behind, but into the gnarled, ancient bark of the great pine. High up, where the mist clung thickest, was there a shape, a deeper shadow within the grooves? Not human. Something older. Something that watched with patient, golden eyes. He felt its gaze, heavy, ancient, curious, not hostile, but inscrutable. The toll keeper of the twilight road, the journal in his hand. Suddenly, felt warm, as if Silas's fear still lived on the brittle pages, a warning echoing across a decade of silence. He heard a breath, not his own, a slow, drawn-in sound like wind through high branches, but closer, much closer, from just behind him, in the clearing where no one stood. The thumping in the earth faltered for a single, terrifying instant. Silence reigned. Then it resumed. Thump, thump, louder, as if waiting for his answer, for his choice to run or to pay the toll. The twilight demanded. The breath hung in the cold air behind him, where nothing should be. Yet the sensation of presence pressed against his back, cold and dense as mountain stone. The immense thumping from the earth pulsed through his boots. Thump, thump, a counterpoint to the frantic, rabbit-quick beat of his own heart. Elias did not turn. His gaze remained locked on the gnarled bark, high above, on the shadow that seemed to shift within the deep grooves, a coalescence of darkness and ancient watchfulness. Silas's journal, a cold weight in his trembling hand, eyes in the dark, golden. The twilight demands a toll. He felt the gaze, not just from the tree, but from the presence behind. Twin pressures of timeless, impassive scrutiny weighing him, measuring his fear against his longing. The breath drew in again, slow, deliberate, like wind sighing through a cave mouth. Closer, the cold intensified, prickling the nape of his neck. Slowly, inch by inch, Elias turned, his muscles protesting with cold and dread. The clearing lay as before, mist swirled, silent save for the deep thump, the scattered scarlet wreckage, the disturbed earth. At the base of the heartwood pine, no figure stood there, no specter of Silas, nothing visible to explain the breath, the cold, the crushing sense of being observed. His eyes lowered to the earth before the great root where he'd found the journal. The soil was dark, damp, and upon it, gleaming with fresh vitality, lay a single large drop of golden sap, thick and luminous, as if the tree itself had wept it just now. It pulsed softly in time with the subterranean heartbeat. Thump, glow, thump, glow. A tiny, radiant beacon in the gloom. Marlowe's rasp echoed in his mind. The run isn't about speed tonight. It's about seeing. And Silas's words, the twilight demands a toll. Understanding, cold and clear, washed over him. This was the toll. Not money, not speed, but memory, presence, acknowledgement. The sap was not just sap. It was amber, fossilized, time captured, moments. The toll was to offer something precious, something remembered. He looked at the journal in his hand. Silas's thoughts, his fears, his final, terrified entry. It was the last piece of his brother, tangible, real. To leave it felt like surrender, like burying him again. The cold presence behind him waited. The golden eyes above watched. The thumping pulsed, patient, insistent. Thump, thump. The amber drop gleamed, its invitation. Elias knelt. The forest floor, soft, yielding. He placed the worn leather journal gently, reverently, beside the radiant amber bead. His fingers lingered on the cover, on the initials ST, a silent farewell, a desperate question as his hand lifted away. A tremor ran through the earth, subtle but undeniable. The great pine seemed to sigh, a rustle high in its unseen branches. The amber drop shimmered brighter, then slowly, inexorably, it began to spread. Tendrils of liquid gold, reaching like roots towards the journal. They touched the worn leather, not consuming, not burning, but embracing. The amber flowed over the cover, seeping into the grain, filling the scratches, illuminating the initials from within. S.T. glowed with captured sunlight, a soft golden light began to emanate from the journal, not blinding, warm, gentle, like candlelight, seen through honey. It cast long, dancing shadows across the clearing, revealing patterns in the bark of the ancient tree, whorls and spirals that seemed to tell stories of centuries, of storms and sun and countless passing seasons. Elias watched, transfixed, the cold presence behind him eased, dissipated like mist in morning sun. The sensation of being watched from above remained, but softened. The golden eyes in the bark seemed to soften their gaze, to approve. The thumping from the earth changed, slower, deeper, more resonant, a sound of profound satisfaction, of balance, restored. Thump, thump, as the amber completed its embrace, the journal began to sink, not swallowed by mud, but accepted by the earth itself. The dark soil parted softly like water, welcoming the glowing offering. Down it went, smoothly, silently, carrying Silas's words, Silas's fear, Silas's memory, into the heartwood where echoes lived. The light faded as it descended from warm gold to soft ember, to a final flicker deep within the roots, then gone. Only the dark earth remained, smooth, unbroken, as if nothing had ever been buried or offered. The clearing was silent. The deep thumping subsided to a faint, distant vibration, a background hum of the mountain. The mist seemed lighter, thinner, the air less cold, sharper with pine, but warmer, somehow cleansed. Elias remained kneeling, empty-handed, a strange hollowness in his chest, but not the hollow of grief, more the hollow after a storm has passed, cleared, quiet. He had paid the toll. He had offered memory to the twilight. What would it give in return? He stood, legs stiff. He looked once more at the ancient pine, at the spot where the shadow and the eyes had been. The bark was just bark, grooved, ancient, silent, but he felt no fear, only a profound, quiet respect. He turned to leave, to find his way back to Aurora, to the road. As he pushed through the saplings at the clearing's edge, he glanced back. One last look. The mist in the center of the clearing swirled, not randomly. It coalesced, forming a shape, not solid, not a ghost, but a suggestion, a figure kneeling as he had knelt, head bowed before the great tree. The figure wore no jacket, had no distinct features, but the posture, the outline, the feeling was unmistakable. Silas, not trapped, not suffering, but at peace, integrated, part of the mountains, ancient memory, accepted. The mist shape lifted its head, not towards Elias, but towards the tree, a silent acknowledgement. Then it dissolved. Fragments of vapor drifting upwards into the pine boughs. Gone. Elias stood for a long moment, breathing, feeling the echo of the deep thump in his bones, feeling the absence of the journal and the strange lightness it left behind. He hadn't found his brother's body. He hadn't brought him home, but he had found where Silas belonged, not lost, but remembered by the twilight itself. He retraced his steps. The forest felt different, less watchful, more accepting. The mist parted easily before him. Soon, Aurora's headlights gleamed through the trees, twin beacons of the present, calling him back. He slid into the driver's seat. The familiar scent of leather, hot metal, oil, a grounding reality. The scarlet side mirror still lay on the passenger seat. He picked it up. Cold chrome. He looked into its glass. No golden eyes, no phantom figure, only his own reflection, eyes wide, haunted, but clear, cleared by tears he hadn't felt fall, and behind him, reflected not the dark road, but the forest, the mist, the towering pines, and deep within, the reflection, a soft, golden glow, like distant embers, or the memory of amber light. He placed the mirror carefully facing down on the seat, started the engine. Aurora's purr filled the silence, steady, reassuring. He put her in gear, eased back onto the mountain road. The fog still clung, but it felt less oppressive, lighter. The climb continued. He drove, not with desperate searching, but with a quiet purpose. He had paid. The toll was settled. What lay ahead was not a search for the past, but a journey through the rest of the twilight to the finish line, wherever that might be. The road twisted higher, the pines thinned, replaced by stunted, wind-sculpted junipers and rock, gray and sheer. The air grew thinner, colder again. The mist began to dissipate, revealing a vast, starlit sky, inky black, dusted with icy diamonds. Ahead, the road seemed to end, not at a cliff, but at a high, rocky pass, a natural stone arch framing the void beyond. Elias approached slowly. The arch was immense, carved by wind and time. Its surface smooth, dark. As he neared, Aurora's headlights illuminated something etched into the stone of the archway. Not natural symbols, ancient and intricate circles within spirals, lines that flowed like rivers or racing lines on a track. They seemed to pulse faintly with a light that was not starlight, a deep indigo glow like the heart of a sapphire. He stopped the car just before the threshold. The symbols covered the entire inner curve of the arch, a gateway marked with forgotten signs. Beyond it, through the arch, lay not the expected mountain vista or descending road. Beyond was night, pure, absolute, a velvet darkness so profound it seemed to swallow the starlight, not empty, but alive, rippling gently like the surface of a vast, still obsidian lake, reflecting nothing. This was not the end of the road. This was the entrance to something else, the final stage of the twilight run. Marlowe's words whispered once more, "The track is a river of time tonight." This arch was the mouth of the river, flowing into the timeless dark. The indigo symbols glowed brighter as Elias watched, as if inviting or warning. The deep, still darkness beyond waited, patient, unknowable, holding the answer to the race, to Silas, to everything. But to enter meant leaving the known world behind, stepping into the quiet abyss where even the twilight held its breath. The stone arch stood silent, a sentinel between worlds. Its indigo symbols pulsed like slow, steady heartbeats. Elias sat in Aurora's cockpit, hands resting on the wheel, not gripping, just anchoring. Before him, the void beyond the arch rippled, not empty, not darkness, but potential darkness, the kind that exists between stars, between breaths, between one moment and the next. The mountain wind had died. The mist dissipated. Only the arch and the car and Elias and the vast, waiting stillness. Even Aurora's engine seemed to hush. Her usual purr softened to a whisper, as if out of respect for the threshold, for the choice. He looked at the passenger seat. The scarlet mirror lay face down, a relic of the vanished. Beside it, a single amber droplet glistened, fallen from his fingers when he'd returned. A tiny, golden echo of the heartwood's toll. He reached out, turned the mirror over. His reflection looked back, but different. Eyes clearer, face less haunted. And behind him, in the glass, not the arch, not the night, but the road, the winding coastal road, bathed in golden twilight, empty, waiting, as if the mirror showed not the past, but the path through a whisper of sound, not wind, not engine, a voice, familiar, Silas's voice, but not from the trees, not from memory, from inside the mirror, soft as rustling pages. Asterisk drive, little brother, like you mean it. Asterisk. Elias's breath caught the words. So him, teasing, encouraging, the way he always spoken before a race. Not a ghost, not a hallucination, just a gift, a fragment of the twilight's reckoning. He placed the mirror back down, facing up. Let it watch the road. Then he shifted Aurora into gear. The engine responded, a deep, resonant growl, not angry, ready. He eased the car forward towards the arch. The symbols brightened, their indigo glow intensifying as Aurora's tires rolled over the threshold. The moment her hood passed beneath the stone, the world shifted. Sound vanished, not silence, but the absence of sound. The headlights stretched forward into the void, not illuminating, just existing. The road continued, but different, smooth, perfect, unmarred by weather or time. Its edges blurred into the darkness. No cliffs, no ocean, just the ribbon of asphalt and the infinite, soft, black. Elias drove, not fast, not slow, a steady, unhurried pace. The arch was gone, only the road remained, stretching into eternity. Aurora's engine made no noise, but he felt her vibration, her presence, alive beneath him. Then, light ahead, not bright, not harsh, a gentle, golden glow, like dawn, seen through honey. It grew, not approaching, just unfolding, revealing a shape, a car parked sideways across the road, a silhouette at first. Then details emerged: polished chrome, curved fenders, a racing green paint job, worn but loved. Silas's car, the one that had vanished 10 years ago. Not wrecked, not abandoned, just waiting. Elias slowed, stopped a few yards away. He stepped out. The air here was warm, soft, scented with oil and leather, and the faint tang of peppermint gum. The driver's door of the green car opened. A figure stepped out, tall, familiar, a leather jacket, messy hair, that lopsided grin. Silas, not a ghost, not a memory, solid, real, present. He leaned against the car, arms crossed, smiling. Asterisk took you long enough. Asterisk. Elias couldn't speak. His throat tight, not with grief, with something lighter, something like joy, like coming home. Silas nodded towards Aurora. Asterisk, she looks good. You kept her alive. Asterisk. Elias found his voice. Asterisk had to. She's all I had left. Asterisk. A pause. The brothers stood in the quiet. The road stretched behind them. Before them, the golden light wrapped around them, warm, forgiving. Silas sighed, looked down, then up. Asterisk, I couldn't stay. The twilight takes what it's owed, but it gives, too, a chance to say goodbye properly. Asterisk. Elias swallowed. Asterisk, you're not coming back. Asterisk. Silas shook his head. Asterisk, not that way. But I'm not gone. Just somewhere else. The road doesn't end here. It just changes. Asterisk. He pushed off from the car, walked towards Elias, stopped an arm's length away, reached out, a hand on Elias's shoulder, solid, warm. Asterisk, you had to see, had to know. I didn't abandon you. I just took a different turn. Asterisk. Elias nodded. The weight of a decade lifting, not all at once, but enough to breathe. Silas stepped back, smiled. Asterisk, race you to the horizon? Asterisk. Elias laughed, a sound he hadn't heard from himself in years. Asterisk, you'll lose. Asterisk. Silas grinned. Asterisk, always so cocky. Asterisk. They returned to their cars. Silas to his green racer. Elias to Aurora. The engines roared to life, a sound that filled the void. The golden light brightened the road ahead, cleared. Side by side, they accelerated, not towards an ending, but towards the still point, the horizon, where twilight and dawn meet, where all roads converge. And for a moment, just a moment, they were unstoppable together. Then the light consumed them, gentle, radiant, and the road was empty. Only the echoes of engines lingered. Then, even those faded. Back on the coastal road, dawn painted the sky pale gold over indigo. The mist had lifted. The race was over. Elias Thorne stood beside Aurora, parked at the cliff's edge, watching the sun rise over the water. He was alone, but not lonely. The weight in his chest was gone, replaced by something lighter, something like peace. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small amber droplet, hardened now, fossilized. Inside it, a tiny fleck of green paint, a keepsake, a reminder that some roads don't end, they just change. He smiled, got in the car, turned the key. Aurora's engine purred, ready for the road home, for the next race, for the twilight that would always call to them. And as he drove, the rearview mirror showed not just the road behind, but the memory of a green car and a lopsided grin, keeping pace in the golden light. Always, if this story guided you to a place of peace, let us know in the comments. Tell us where in the world you listen tonight. A city, a village, a quiet room like Elias's. Subscribe for more journeys into the quiet. Click the bell to join us every night for stories that unwind the day's knots and lead you softly into sleep. Share with someone who needs a twilight road, a reminder that even in the dark there are horizons waiting, golden and full of peace. Good night, dear traveler, until the next road, the next still point, the next horizon.